Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Board Game Specialist. I am Melanie,
And I'm Carla.
and we're on episode 110, and we are continuing with our top 100 games. So we're currently working on the top 100 games that we talked about during the first 100 episode of the podcast. And we talked about a lot of games. So there's a lot we're going through, but we're getting into the really good stuff. We're going to be covering from 30 to 21. But before we get into that, first of all, I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. So this is our first episode of 2025. Carla, how was your holidays?
Oh, it was nice. We had lots of downtime, but lots of family time and lots of games. Almost every day we played some games. Lots of
Because
party
you
games.
shared your stats for
Hmm
2024, and you played an average of 6.8 games a day.
Yes. So I was
Yeah.
2,504. Um, 20% of that, or roughly 20% was BGA, but a lot of solo, but a lot of board games I played this year. I don't know that I'll ever reach that number again because I really, really tried to reach. I think I was going for 2,000 and somehow got to 2,500. But yeah, it's just part of my day. A lot of in the morning, sometimes I get up and walk the dog, work out and set up a game for the day when I'm home from work or in the evening. And
Nice.
then if someone's here to play or I have a game day, then we play lots of games. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Yes, I haven't quite reached your level. I've played 610 games in 2024. But yeah, just as I saw your numbers, like, holy crow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I told my
Oh,
husband, he's like, "What?" I said, "Oh, all my friends, we all are about around that number."
that's funny. No, there's a whole digit missing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. I mean, that is impressive. That is
Well,
very impressive. So,
well,
you
my
have a true
husband's gone a
specialist
lot.
on the podcast.
True. I do have a lot of alone time, so I
True.
do
I
that in
take
my
advantage.
my
Yeah.
alone time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about which one you've played lately.
So I got a few games for Christmas, and this was one of them. This one is called Daybreak. Now, this was a game I kind of had looked at a little bit here and there over the year, and it kind of kept coming back to me like, I think I kind of want this game, but I didn't really hear any reviews about it, or there
Oh,
wasn't a lot of reviews, so I kind of, waited. And then I started hearing some really good reviews. People were like, this is a really cool cooperative game. And the theme dragged me in, and the colors and just the whole presence on the table is really neat. It's a cooperative game about climate action. So each player controls a world power trying to reduce carbon emissions to lower the temperature of
oh,
the earth. Yeah, and so if you can get to draw down global emissions to like net zero, you win. But what's neat about it is it has like a terraforming Mars kind of mechanic where you are playing these cards and all the tags on the cards, depending where you play. If you play them in front of a card or behind them, it will help you if you activate that card. So everybody starts, like I said, with a world power, and then that world power has specific 5 starting cards. So you play these cards down, and you have a player board that will also, or you have another card that will tell you how many of your clean energy and how much dirty energy you start with, how many of different types of emissions like agriculture. What are the other ones? I'm just looking there. Like industrial and all kinds of things that you'll start with, and you're trying to remove those. And it's tricky because sometimes the cards that you pull won't remove, some of the emissions that you want to. There's always going to be cards that will remove the dirty energy, but then you also have a energy demand. So if you clean up too much of the energy, you're short of your demand, then you're going to get some global crisis tokens, and getting too many of them will lower the cards you're going to get per round. And if you get too many, I think it's 12, then you lose. So it's neat because everyone starts with a hand of 5 cards, and not the ones that are in front of them. But then you can play these cards and you can share them with other people too in different ways. But you will decide what you're going to do with them. And they're all different projects that will help clean up the earth. And it's really neat because each card has a QR code that you can scan. And it's literally like an actual live project that is going on or has gone on. And you can kind of get information about that.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, so it's neat. But then you're also always going to draw these crisis cards. And depending how many of your emissions you have at the end of the round, you will, if you can see the board on, if you're watching it right now, you'll have some trees and some oceans. And everyone will add up all their emissions at the end of, after they've played all their cards and tried to reduce some of it. They'll add them up, and then you will place them onto the oceans and the trees because they will like absorb the carbon, right? And then what's left over is going to go over to that thermometer there. And if you have too many, it's going to add a temperature strip, so the earth is going to heat up. And then as it heats up, you might have to draw more crisis cards, and you have to roll this crisis dice that will move different things up that will cause more problems for you. So it has that, pandemic feel where you do all the good stuff and then the bad stuff happens. But if you can overcome and do more good stuff than bad, then you win the game. And it's really puzzly, but the card play is so cool because you can, like I said, you can play behind other cards, which adds more tags for the action on the card, because some of them will say like discard a card, and then you can clean up 2 energy per a certain type of tag that's on there. So cool. Once you've cleaned up, all your dirty energy, then you probably will want to cover up that card with something else that might, like another card that might give you more trees or might give you more oceans, or clean. It's more clean oceans kind of thing. But it's really neat, and it's a cool solo puzzle, but it's also a really neat cooperative puzzle to play. And it just looks really cool. Like it's like a simplistic kind of art where it's, like really neat colors, but not too busy, I should say. And the box came not a tad of plastic on it. Like literally it was bound by paper. Paper strip. You
kind of like Endeavor was.
Oh, really? Yeah. And so you open it up, and then there's recyclable kind of little boxes is what they use for the tokens and things. And there's no baggies at all, and just cards, and then boxes for the cards. So it's nice. It's really neat how they produced it. But it was also it's a 4-player game. Goes, like I said, 1 to 4, but it's just so unique to me that it's a type of game where you're actually, trying to improve the earth, and how much work they've put into it with every single card. And there is a big stack of cards.
Nice.
And then there's like the global project cards and the crisis cards, and you can, really look at everything that is actually going on, because there are people out there who think it's not real, that the whole heating of the planet is not affecting us. But you can look at these cards and you can see the actual things that are going on. But yeah, I really recommend this game. There's not a lot of people talking about it, but if you do find some on like some social or content creators, they love this game.
Nice.
It's really cool. But what about you? What have you been playing?
Yeah, so now it's funny for this game that I'm going to talk about. I wasn't planning on getting it. Lee was leaving for Cuzco. He was going to go food shopping for the holidays. And we had been texting each other back and forth our like grocery list. Even if we're like sitting next to each other, it's like, oh, eggs. So I would like text him eggs to kind of make sure it's added to the list. Yeah. And then as he was leaving, he's like, do you need anything else? And I was like, ooh, bring me a surprise. And he's like, sorry, it's not on the list. So I texted him a surprise as he was leaving. And I could hear him giggle as he walked out, but then he showed up and he brought me a surprise, and he got me Mancala. So I was so excited for this. And ended up playing it later that day or the next day again and again and again. And then Patrick played it with Patrick. And then he was like, okay, let's play it again. Let's play it again. And we sat down and would do like 8 games. Like it became like my most played game, even though for the year, even though we had only owned it a few days. But so I was so impressed with this game. Now this game was created in the year 700. Mm-hmm. It's an old game. They used to play this with seeds or whatever. But the board I have, and this is a picture of the actual board I have. So it's a wooden thing. You have what's called the pockets in front of you, and then in front of the other player, they have their own pockets as well. And there's 6 of them. Then you have like your Mancala on each side. One is yours, one is the other player. And you start with 4 beads in each of the pockets. Now they're colorful in here, but the color has no impact whatsoever. And what you're going to do is you're going to pick up 4 beads, and then you're going to go counterclockwise and drop 1 bead in each pocket that you go by. Now, if you go by the Mancala, you're going to drop 1 in there, and that technically is your goal. You're trying to collect the most beads as you can. And if you go around, then you are going to start dropping on the other player's side, depending on how many beads you have in your hands, because eventually you'll have more than 4 in one pocket because you'll be dropping extra ones in there. Now, if you ever drop your last bead in your Mancala hole, then you get to take another turn. And if you ever drop your last bead on an empty pocket on your side, you can also collect what the bead that you've dropped there, as well as any beads that is on the other side in the other player's pocket, just across from the one you've played. So you're trying to strategically drop these so that you can gather the most beads possible. Patrick loves chess, and he is hard to beat at chess. And we played Mancala, and he had just woken up, and you could tell he was groggy, and I played with him, and I beat him, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't beat Patrick, and I was cheering. And he's like, okay, again. And he must have woken up, because I haven't been able to beat him since, really. So he's like, he totally clued in. I was like, oh, wait, no, I'm going to take this one because then that drops there. Then I get to go again. Then I'm going to take these 2 and that drops there. And then I'm going to take that one again. That drops there. So like, he can clean up the board like so well. It is like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Then we brought it at my in-laws for Christmas as well. I was showing my mother-in-law how to play. And she was like, hey, well, you guys play first. And she's watching. He's like, okay, you guys play again, but it plays quick. Like, it plays probably in 10 minutes, probably why it's got played so much, but it is a very satisfying game to play. For something that's been around so long, it's so simple, it's good. And I'm so glad I asked for a surprise and that Lee ended up grabbing this for me, because it's just so good. So if you haven't played Mancala yet,
so tactile too, with like the smooth little pockets and the
yes.
feel of the stones.
It's very satisfying,
but it's still they're so nice. I do love this game.
Yeah, because I had played some games that it has a Mancala mechanism to it. I was like, oh, okay, but I had no idea. I said, well, what is Mancala specifically? So now I know, and yeah, it's worth it. It's. I think it's one that's worth owning in every collection. Like,
yes, definitely.
It's definitely a classic. I mean, and I was telling Patrick, he's like, oh, it's old. He's like, oh, like, I know it was like, it's a really old game. He's like, ooh, like 20 years. I was like, no, older. He's like, older than you? That's like, it was created in like the year 700. Like, it's really, really old. Yeah. So yeah. Older than me, even.
Abstract strategy games.
But yeah, great game. Definitely, if you haven't tried it yet, it is completely worth, because it's so quick to pick up, it's so quick to play, but it's so satisfying.
How much was it at Costco?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
see it when I was there. So
well, because they had this one and they had Villainous, right? And then I know Villainous had gone on sale, so I'm assuming this one probably was as well, but I can't remember. Well, I can't remember. I didn't buy it. I wasn't there, so I didn't ask. So
Lee must just be thrilled. He had brought home a cool surprise and ended up everyone loved it.
Yes, he did so well.
Good
He
job,
did so
Lee.
well. He's a good gift giver, actually. Like,
Yeah, he is.
yeah,
The pirate gold you got for Christmas
that's
is
right.
unreal.
I
You'll
am
have
very
to
thrilled with those. Yeah.
you'll have to look on our Discord. You've posted pictures of the pirate gold, but we actually got to play with it, and it
That's
was
right.
awesome.
It's so
Yeah,
satisfying. And then, like, I'm bringing stuff in. I'm like, quick, grab the gold,
yeah,
grab the gold. It's
weighs
heavy.
a ton.
Like, there's a lot of heft to it, but it's like a whole poker set of metal coins, and they're
Yeah,
gorgeous.
yeah,
So,
and
yeah, no,
very
that's great.
expensive. But like me and Mel both, well, I shouldn't speak for you, but I'm not a jewelry person. But that I would prefer to some
Yes. Oh,
diamond ring.
yes.
Bring me on the
Oh,
pirate gold.
100%. And flowers, like,
Exactly.
flowers die. Give me board games. Like,
Yeah.
why would anybody give me flowers or jewelry? Yeah. But yeah, no, definitely. He did good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to get started with our top 30 to 21. And Carla, we're going to start with you. So, what is your number 30?
My number 30 is a game that I didn't think I was going to get because I have the big collector's edition version of it. And I thought, I don't need a roll and write version of this, but it is
Oh,
quite different. And it took me a while to realize that. But this one is Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig. Now, what's
right.
neat about this is there's the same mechanic basically, other than you're doing it on paper, but you have this nice vellum sheet that goes over top of what you're drawing, and you will place you can place the cards under them so you can trace them, which is nice instead of having to imagine what the polyominoes are going to look like. Because what you're doing
Nice.
is you're building up this castle with all these crazy kind of rooms that you're placing for the Mad King, obviously, and you're putting them in this castle, and you only have a small area to begin with, but once you do certain things you can open it up more. Now the shapes on these are quite different than the actual big game. Some of them are really crazy because they have some like side cut off side shapes from a square, and you have just these like wacky zigzags and all kinds of different things. But what you are doing is the same kind of thing, and you're trying to close off these rooms so that you can get the bonuses for the rooms. And you are just drafting a room, which is a card from the table. And they could have swans on them as well. That will give you bonuses. But it's neat how the player turn order works. For whoever drafts the lowest card, they will be first in the next turn. And the ones are usually the really tiny rooms. So if you draft a 7 card, then you're going to have a bigger room, but you're going to wait for the next turn to draft. So that you have to kind of take that into account. But I really like how the bonuses work because you can save the bonuses in these ones. You don't have to do them immediately like you do in the big game. So you could save a bunch up until you need to use them, where you want to, move a door around or add a door. If you want to expand your castle, there's all different kinds of things you can do. And then you also have some bonuses up top that you can get any of the bonuses if you are consistently in last, like you take the high cards and so you're always drafting last, you get to mark a little tick on this, and once you get 4 of those, then you get another bonus. So it's kind of a catch-up mechanism that way too, where if you're always choosing last and getting the last thing that's there, then you can kind of come back and be first player possibly with your bonus. And it's just got so much puzzliness to it. And I thought that as a roll and write, it's just going to basically be that on paper, but it's actually so much more. And I just love this one. And it made my top 30, which I was shocked at because I don't think I have any, second games in possibly even my top 50. But this one is awesome. I highly recommend it. And that's Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig.
Nice. All right. My number 30 is a game that I purchased secondhand, and I'm glad I did because otherwise I wouldn't have gotten it because it was a Kickstarter. So somebody had Kickstarted it and they were selling their copy, and I bought it because I have not seen this one in retail or anywhere ever. But I bought it with the boys in mind because they were a huge fan of Gold Rush Alaska. And this is pretty much Gold Rush Alaska, the board game, and it's called Pay Dirt. So it's great though. You have these tiles that are dirt. And you have different type of dirt, right? You might have like barren dirt that you might find gold, but it's not very likely. Or you might have some that are like more promising. And like, so there'll be different quality of dirt that you're going to be processing. And then you send it through your whole system, right? So first you got to move it through the excavator. And then there's 3 space in each of the location. And every time you move, like you have bunch of worker. This is a worker placement. So you need to send a worker to push it through the next step. So if you got to push it through 3 times, then you need 3 workers to move the dirt through the excavator. Then you're going to have to move it through the loader to be able to take it to the wash plant. And then once it goes through the wash plant, it comes out and you flip your dirt over to see how much gold was in there. Now, you can upgrade your machinery so maybe it processes faster. And instead of having to push it through 3 times, you can do it in 2 times or 1 time even. But every time dirt goes through, you are also taking wear and tear on your machine. So you're going to have to send workers to maintain or repair your machine. Or if it breaks down, then it's like, okay, well, it's broken. Now we need to remove it or replace it. And then once you have the gold, you can trade some of the gold in to be able to purchase new machinery, upgrade, or hire staff, and which would give you more workers. But then some of the staff have special ability where they do certain things better. Some of them are like, oh, but they're twins. Like you hire this staff, but you get 2 because they're side by side, right? So the whole thing is so thematic. It is so well thought out. And it's trying to make the most money, right? So at the end, you're going to trade in your gold or have the most gold. But so anyways, at the end, it's whoever has the most profit with the gold mine that is the winner. But it's one that my boys absolutely loved. It's one we've played tons of. When we had moved to a place in Daybreak, that was like the first game that was played there, and then we made a point. Okay, Pay Dirt, it's the first game at the new house or whatever, and it's so good. It is so good, and if you enjoy watching Gold Rush Alaska, you're gonna enjoy this game because it's like the same thing, right? Like it's so thematic to that.
Cool. I've never heard of this one.
No, like I said, I've never seen it out in the wild, so I'm glad I found it. Because I haven't seen it out, and I've never heard anybody talk about it except for myself. So
neat. All right, number 29. Mine is Set a Watch. Now this one I had heard about from a friend, and she just loved it, and I didn't think I'd be interested in this game. Until you actually introduced me to a game. I can't even remember what it's called. It was an adventure game we played at your house.
okay,
You had to I can't remember what it was called, but where you have like different weapons and things you need, and you have like an arm, like you
like Legend of Novus.
That's it. Yeah.
Nice.
So that game,
yeah.
We played it, and Ashley was like, well, if you guys like this, you should try Set a Watch with me. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I will give it a try. And oh, wow, did I love it. This one is like a dice game. Now you are each a different adventure, and you are trying to defeat all these different creatures. But how you do that is everybody rolls all their dice, and you all have different types of dice. So some will have like just D6s, and some will have like D8s or D10s or whatnot.
Nice.
And you have 3 dice, I believe, and you roll them, and then you use them for your different abilities or to attack these creatures that are going to come up in this line. And you're constantly trying to keep this fire lit so that you have obviously can see what is coming. But there's always somebody that stays back and watches it, and they can do different things there, like add more fire or add more wood to the fire, or can heal like one of your actions that you aren't able to do anymore. They might be able to check what's coming, like for location wise or different things. But it's just really neat how the dice work for, either attacking these creatures or just using your abilities. And it's quite a like a simple learn. Like it's really easy to teach, but it's very puzzly because you have to work together to defeat these creatures or they will overcome you. And it was so neat that like these different expansions came out, and they were kind of different versions, standalone expansions that came out, and you could never find them. They were never in print. And so all of a sudden it came out on Bliss, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is the one where it has a market with where you can buy different weapons to help you.
Oh, fun.
And so I got that one as well. But have you ever played this one, Mel?
Not this one, no.
Oh yeah, you would love this game. It's really neat. It's the dice mechanism in it is so cool. And maybe it is in a lot of adventure games. I have only kind of gotten into them recently. So this one was more of like, it felt to me more like a puzzle, like a puzzly adventure game. So I think that's why I was so drawn to it, because you can play it solo and just, you can play as many characters as you want. It's just more complicated that way, but it's really neat. And just how you have to use your dice and, figure out which actions I really need to keep and which I can, if I do injure myself, you flip them over and then you can't use them until you heal yourself again, kind of thing. But it's a really cool game. Yeah, and that's my number 29, Set a Watch.
Very nice. Yeah, no, it looks super interesting. And no, doesn't look like a big game at all.
No, it's not. It comes in one of those like magnetic flip boxes, so it's nice and compact. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, my number 29. Now, when I talked about it, we were doing a recap of Malcon, because this is a game that I played at Malcon. Unfortunately, I don't own this game. Pretty sure it's out of print. I've been looking, but I haven't found a copy. And this was the very last game that I played. It was only me and Michael left. And we played a 2-player game of Royals. And I was so impressed with it. It was so good. And I was like, okay, I want this. And then every time I get like a gift card for something, I go and search again. It's like it's not on Amazon. It's not with any of the board game stores that I looked at. But every once in a while I try again and it's still not available. So if you come across this one, let me know. But Royal was really interesting. So it's an area control game. And each, like, you have like the different countries that have, the different colors. And then what's going to happen is you're going to be playing cards, and there's like tokens on the card that's just like you're trying to match the different things. And then depending on the location, how many you need to have of one type to be able to say, okay, well, I'm taking control of this one. And you have like the upper control and the lower control. And when you get control, you can put your token on it. And you send 2 tokens, one on the location to show that you're taking control of that one, and one on the royal that is in that area, and you kind of have influence on that royal now. And you'll do kind of a few rounds, and then you score, and I think you score 3 times. And depending on which one you have control of, how many points it's going to be worth, depending on what the location is and how much of it, if you control the upper, lower, or the lower portion, or if you have control of both or whatever. And then you keep going, but then you can start taking control of some of those locations away from each other as well. And it's kind of like a card drafting. You're trying to collect cards to be able to put together the different combinations to take control of the different areas. But it was a very simple game to learn. It was such a satisfying game to play. And I know we always say, oh no, I don't like area control, but turns out we really do. And this one was just so neat and straightforward, and I absolutely loved it. And then at the end of the game, like with the final scoring, it's whoever has the most influence with the royals. And you have like the king and the queen and the princess or the countess, or all the different roles that they have, then they're going to give you so much points, and then whoever has the most points wins. So you're trying to kind of get the most influence with the royals, but have the influence on the map, and then you're trying to maintain that influence if you can, or take it away from other people as well. And I played this at 2 players. I'm interested in trying it with a higher player count. I think it would kind of bounce around a little bit more, but I really enjoyed it at 2 players. And like at the time, like I before the end of the game, I'm like hunting, seeing if I can buy it, and then I can't find it. So I
Yeah,
would
that's what I
love to
played.
own this one, but it's yeah, but it was so good. Like for after one play, it's in my top 30s. It made an impression.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that is royal.
Nice. No, I'd like to try this one too. Well, we know Michael has it, so
Yes, exactly. So
get
at
it played
least,
at some point.
yeah.
Great. All right. My number 28 is Glenmore 2. Now, this one is a really neat one. It's a tile laying game, which you each play like a Scottish clan from the early medieval age, and you're just kind of trying to expand your like your farm. I don't know if they called them farms back then, way back, but
Right.
you have different animals that you can add to it. And how you do that is you move around this rondelle, and there's these tiles are placed all along this rondelle. And it's one of those rondelles where you move forward, but you can't go backwards. So you could go as far as you like, but then you may be waiting a while for your turn. So there might be a really juicy tile, but you're like, oh, I'm going to gamble. I'm going to go to this one first. Hopefully, no one takes that one ahead. And so when you do land on a tile, you'll take it, and you have to place it around an existing tile, obviously. And then if you have, depending on the symbols, and if you have a clans member there, then you can activate all the surrounding ones around it, which is neat. And then you can move your, if it allows you, you can move your clan member. So there's different things on the tiles. You can get animals, you can get like whiskey barrels, you can actually sell, and that, like, or it'll give you a trade there. You might be able to trade some in for points. And there's this neat market that's inside the rondelle where if you need to buy things that are there, you can buy them. But if they're not available, you may be able to sell them to the market. And there's only so many spots that are there. So I think there's only 4 spots. So if 4 things are already sold, you cannot sell them anymore. You can buy them because the money goes right onto the market. So it's really neat because you can see either the item is there or the money will be there. And then there's also these, some of the tiles are actually people, and they're, famous Scottish people from
Nice.
legends. Probably, some are real, but they will help you with different things. They might give you an ability, or they might give you I forget what these other cards are, but they're like locations basically, and some of those will give you, extra end game points or like a player power throughout it. But what's really neat about this, because this is a remake from Glenmore, is that it has all these chronicles. So the box comes, it's quite a big box, but there's all these little boxes in it that are kind of like, it's almost like a campaign game, but you don't have to play it that way. You could literally open them all up and play them however you like. But each of the boxes has a new kind of little mini expansion to it. And it's all these different kinds of famous designers that have each developed one of them. So it's kind of neat because, you have the Carcassonne designer, you have you have like Jamie Stegmaier did one, and a bunch of other designers, added a little tweak to the game. So you can play with 1 or 2 or, as many as you want at a time to, complicate the game a little bit, because it is very quite simple, the base game, but still feels crunchy because you're, trying to be economic about it, how you're going to build up your farm and how you're going to trade these goods and sell them and buy them and all kinds of things. But it's a really, really neat game, and cool how they did the chronicles of each of them in the box with all these different designers coming up with things like that. They've done that in a few other games as well. I know Lagrange, they did that too, where a whole bunch of different designers developed one little module in the game. And I just love that because it feels like, all these celebrities are just adding in on someone else's game, which I think is just so cool. But yeah, that's my number 28, Glenmore 2 Chronicles.
Cool. No, I haven't played this one yet either.
No? Yeah, it's fun.
Looks good. All right, my number 28 is a reprint or remake of one of your most favorite games, and that is Farshore. So Everdell is Carla's. It'll probably come up in the next couple of episodes here because she really likes that one. And I have still never played Everdell, but I've played
You've never
Farshore.
played the original. This
Still
one's
haven't
fun.
played the original, but from what I understand, they play very similar. I do personally enjoy the theme of Farshore quite a bit. I'm from a small fishing village in New Brunswick, and I purchased this game shortly after I went back to visit, and I hadn't been there for like nearly 5 years. And when I went back, and it's like the smell of the ocean, the sound of the waves, and everything is like, oh my God, I forgot. I missed this so much. Right. Like, and then with the Far Shore, the components are just absolutely amazing. You have these little rubber piece that is the algae, right? And then
Yeah.
we would chase each other with them. And or you could get the ones that have like the little air pockets in it and we would burst them as kids playing with them. And then you have the seashell that has like that shiny coating to it. And you have mushrooms, which whatever, I don't associate with that at all. But then you have the little sea glass, and like I picked so much sea glass on the beach. Like the whole thing works so well. Plus the meeples, like you have crabs, you have like all these. The theme is just perfect. The theme, and then when I just looked at it, I was like, oh my God, like it just has that nostalgia for me. Plus the gameplay, of course, is really interesting, how you're collecting the cards and you're sending your workers in a different location. And there's so many different things you can work on that'll kind of build point. You can go around the outside of the board there moving your boat along, or there's collecting the different type of things so you can get the tiles depending on when you meet that. But everybody plays at their own pace as well. Like you can be moving forward when somebody stays in the first level or season or whatever it's called in this version. But the gameplay is really good. The look of the game is great, and the theme is just perfect. So that is my number 28, and it's Far Shore.
Awesome. Glad it made your list. All right. My number 27 is kind of another dungeon crawl adventure game, and this one is Kinfire Delve. Now, there are three different versions in
I
Kinfire
picked the
Delve.
latest one for the pictures.
The latest one, they all play the same, like they have the same they don't play exactly the same, but they have kind of the same mechanic in them.
Yeah.
Some they have different cards that will do different things, but what you're doing in here is you're delving down into a dungeon, and how you do that is there's this kind of big boss that is in the middle, and surrounded on either side of it is different cards that you are trying to defeat. And once you defeat one of those cards, the winnings basically from it are usually you get to delve deeper into the dungeon, which is take more cards off this deck. So this deck is representing, you delving down. And so once you have completely delved down into the dungeon, you get to actually fight this person. So every time you do that, like I said, you're going to pull these cards off. Now, how you do that is you cooperatively will play this. You can play a solo as well, but you can play cards from your hand, and you all play a different character, and you all have a different type of lantern that will light up your deck. Basically, it's like the thematic part of it is it's lighting up the area that you're fighting, I believe. But what it does is it gives you a really strong power. So if you can get that into your deck, which can be one of the winnings from the card, then it will really help you. But what you do is you play these cards, and on them they have an amount of kind of power that they're fighting. And then they also have these support numbers on the bottom with different colors, so that when it's your turn, you have to play the top part of it. And then people can actually support you, and they can play these cards and they would just use the bottom of their cards. Now, depending what color you play, because there's 4 different colors, if I played a green, somebody else had, something that could either be a green or a blue on the bottom, they could play that and help me. There's also white, which is neutral, so that can be added to anything. But it's neat because if I say had a power of 5 and then the creature, or not creature, but whatever we were fighting had a power of 11, and you supported me with a 2, I'd have 7. Then you always will roll the dice as well. And these dice have different things on them. They'll have the colors that will come up. They'll have a neutral that, can be used for anything. And then they have some symbols that can affect you depending on different cards. But you always roll the dice. And then if I have the amount, say I would have rolled 4 green, well, I would have 11 and we would defeated that. And then we look at the winnings on that and we would get whatever that is. Now, if we did not, defeat it, then there's usually some sort of like damage that you're going to take. You may take actual damage, which you all start with, I think, 9 health, like equally. And so you might have to like flip that 9. It's a D10, I think, that they use, and you'll have to like flip that down and lose some life, or you might have to add more cards back to the well, and you'll try to defeat as many as you can at a time. But there's always times where you can't. But then you also have these powers with your cards that sometimes when you play them, it might say, oh, you get to add damage to each card in like surrounding the boss or whatever. And it's just really puzzly. And again, like I never thought these adventure games would be puzzly. I thought it was just roll the dice to win or lose kind of thing. But I have discovered that they're all very unique and really cool. And this one also about it, it's an inexpensive game, and the cards and art are just beautiful.
Really
they have
nice.
like like a shimmer to them. They have some gold metallic kind of in them, and they're thick and just gorgeous. And I feel like you are just really getting your money's out of this game because it's a nice small box that you can bring anywhere, but play solo, co-op, anything. I've actually played in all player counts, and they all work really well. It's very well developed game, and must have been very well play tested as well. But that's my number 27, Kinfire Delve.
Yeah, Kinfire Delve is really cool. And it's interesting because if you support the other player, you got to be careful. You don't get to draw a card when you use a card. And if you ever run out of card, then you have to take like an exhaust card. And depending on the card, what's going to happen. And if you get too much, you will lose the game. Yeah, but you can't win the game without supporting each other and spending these cards either. So it's like a really interesting balance. I have the 3 boxes, and you can mix and match the boxes together as well, but they're all standalone.
Two players can play with 1 box.
Yeah.
But if you mix 2 of them, then you can play with 4. I don't think you can play with 6, but I think you can go up to 4. Which is
we've played it at 4, and I've played it at 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, great pick.
Really good. Yeah.
Alrighty, my number 27 is, now I've picked one. There's other versions of it that I have played as well, and they all kind of, I haven't played the latest one, but the one I've picked is Terra Mystica. Now, I've also recently bought Terra Nova, and Terra Nova feels very much like Terra Mystica, but it's kind of like a condensed version of it, and it's a little bit easier to get to the table, and it's a little bit easier to teach. But Terra Mystica is great. And then there's Gaia Project, which is more space themed. Personally, I didn't enjoy the Gaia Project as much. I found it harder to get across the map. But there's Age of Innovation that's come out that's very much following this series. And I haven't played that one yet, so I don't know how that one compares. But with this one, it is so interesting. Because first of all, you will start as a different faction, and you will populate, or you will kind of build on a specific type of terrain. This to me is like Catan 6.0. Like, it's taken Catan a few levels up, and it's made it so much better. But so let's say I'm building on the brown section in this one here. So as I want to spread out and build elsewhere, depending on what's near me, I may have to terraform those locations so that they meet my requirement, because I can't just spread everywhere, right? So, and then depending on the type of terrain I'm trying to go on, how much work it's going to be to bring it to my level. And you have this wheel that shows. So, if I'm brown and I want to build on yellow or black, then I need to terraform it in one level. So, I would need to spend one shovel to transform it into my type of terrain. Then we can go and, kind of place some dwellings there. But if I wanted to go red or blue, then I need to have spent two shovel to kind of affect it to level in order for it to be habitable for me. And then so that concept is very interesting. And you're going to be building these different level of buildings that is seeing on the board. And what's super cool about that is as you build and you take the building off your board and you put it on the map, it's going to start revealing things that was underneath. And then that's going to be part of what you can collect during your kind of resource phase or collecting phase or income phase, I guess. And then the more you have revealed, the more you're collecting. But as you're upgrading the buildings, so I'm like, okay, I'm taking this little house and I'm upgrading it into this bigger one. Now I'm uncovering something from the bigger one, but I'm covering back up from the little house. So the income is going to be shifting and changing as you go. Now, the action selection is also very interesting because you have all these different actions and you're going to kind of select what you want to do. And that kind of gets used up. So if somebody did what I was hoping to do, then it might not be available for me anymore. And then some is going to require for you to spend magic to do it. And the way that it works is you have a level, it's almost like 3 cauldrons, but you have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. Now, in order to spend, like you're going to be kind of upgrading these. So when you do an upgrade with your magic, you always take the tokens that you have in level 1 and move them into level 2. You can't move into level 3 until your level 1 is empty. Now, if level 1 is completely empty, then I can go into level 2 and I can move them into level 3. Now, once they've reached level 3, those are the ones that are available for me to spend. So you don't want to spend them before you upgrade them, ideally, because now you have stuff in level 1. Because when you spend them, they go back to level 1. So it's like, oh, wait. But I was going to do. So I'm going to leave it in level 3. I'll upgrade them first so that I have more in level 3. Then I'll start spending them. And then now we'll kind of be able to do certain action as well that allow you to. But it has also like a strong area control feel to it as well. It really has a strong Catan base to it. But it's good. And Terra Nova makes it kind of a little bit more condensed, a little bit easier to teach and play. Gaia Project is the exact same games, just it's not the exact same. The tracks are a little bit different because you'll have some track that you upgrade your kind of your abilities on, and that's going to be a little bit different on the Gaia Project one. Age of Innovation, but you've got Age of Innovation and played it, right, Carla?
Yeah, it just adds more. It adds these books and these I forget what the tiles are called. They're just it kind of adds a whole other like section to the game, but
Nice.
it's really neat.
But yeah, such a good game. It's so good.
Yeah, it is.
And you got all sorts of level that you can, so it's very attainable. But and it's a bit a heavier game, so keep that in mind. But yeah, number 27, Terra Mystica.
Yeah, but if you want to start into it, ease into it, then get Terra Nova first, because that is quite lighter than Terra Mystica. All right, my number 26 is another remake. Now, this one is a Stefan Feld game that was a remake of Bora Bora, and this is Cuzco. So the theme in Bora Bora was more of like a beach theme, which I do love. But this one has more of like a I want to say
Aztec, I guess.
Mesopotamia, yeah, Aztec-y theme to it, and it's basically the same game with a different theme. So you are trying to do all kinds of different things in this game, but you basically are using dice and dice drafting, not dice drafting, dice placement, but it's unique how these dice are placed because you have these different actions you can do, and you will place a dice down and take that action, and then somebody else will come along and have to place a lower pip dice if they want to do that action. So there's different things you can do. You can place it on an action spot where you can take these tiles, and they used to be called man and woman tiles, and in this they are called scholar and farmer tiles, and they will go onto your big player board, and they will be placed on the board in a certain spot. That, and another action, you can move these down, slide them down, and then when you slide them down, you get a certain action which will either give you food or I get them mixed up because it was shells and tattoos in the other game.
Right, yeah.
It's food and it might be no, it's not tattoos, but it's something else. And so the food you are going to need to buy these different types of pottery basically at the end of the round, and those will give you kind of big set collection points. But you can also use these farmer and scholar tiles at the end of the round. You can activate always one of each, and they each have kind of a power that you can do. So you may be able to like buy more things. You may be able to move along on this little track that you were kind of jumping around on, trying to claim these little I feel like they're like fire oh, that's probably not what they are, but there's this one big track that you will move your little meeples around, and you'll place a little token down, and everyone else can come around and put one on top, and whoever is on top at the end is going to get the big points for that area. So it's kind of a little area control, but it's neat because you kind of want to be away from everyone, because if you put something down and they're close, they're going to put one on top. But you might even want to wait till closer to the end of the game, because then you can get all your stuff on top there. That's a different action. You also have this priest track that you will be placing some of your priests on, and depending how high they are up on this track, if you put a 6 pip dice down, you get to go really high up. If you put a lower one, you'd be lower, and you can bump people off this track. So as you're going throughout the game, you may have started at 4 or 5, but you've got bumped right down to 2 or 3. And the person has the most on there will get this little cool power at the end of the round. And if you're tied, it's whoever's higher up. So there's all these kind of different little mini games going on that you are doing in this game, and it's really cool because it just changed the theme, and both games are awesome. I wouldn't say get one over the other. If you have the other one, you really don't need this one. I just chose to get it because I was buying another game from that city collection that he redid, and so they kind of went together, so I got both of them.
Nice.
But the first one is just as awesome and plays just almost identical, and so either one is totally fine. But that is my number 26, Cuzco.
Nice. Yeah, I have Bora Bora, and you can see there's definitely, very big similarities. At first, I didn't realize it was the same one, and I'm looking closer, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. My number 26 is another slightly bigger game. Now, I've played it a few times, and I think I've played it with you or people from our group anyways, for sure, and I seem to like it way more than everybody else that I've played it with, and that is Gugong. I am so impressed with this game. First time I've played it was at when they were doing the board game Bash of Blood, and I attended and played it there, and I played Duncan's copy, and I was like, whoa, and I just love the mechanism of it. Like, it's a worker placement, but it's like a card placement. And you have these cards in your hand, and they have a value to it. And there's cards on the board for each of the different locations and the different actions you can activate. And if I want to go at the top there and kind of spread on the map and collect some different tokens that's going to give me different abilities or resources, I would need to put a card and replace the card that is currently there. So in order to be able to go and replace the card, I need to play a card that is higher value than what is there. Unless this is the highest valued card, then I have to put the lowest value card, like it wraps around. So if it's a 3 there, I may want to put a 4 or 5 or a 6 or whatever. And the cards that you play will then allow you to do the action that where you've played it, but the card itself also has an action attached to it that you also get to accomplish. So you'll be able to do two actions with that one card placement. And the card that you replace goes into your discard pile, and those are going to be your cards that you're going to play for the next round as well. So you don't want to create two big gaps and it was like, oh, it's a 2 and I'm going to put a 5, and then you end up with a bunch of like really little cards. Now, if you want to do an action and you don't have a card that is higher valued, you can spend 2 cards to activate it. But now you're spending 2, so you're getting less action for the cards that you have available. And it's one of those where you can go all over the different places. Like at the bottom, you have the river and you're sending your boat, and you can go like as the sooner you end your journey on this river, like the less you're going to get out of that movement. But like it gets quite attractive of what you can accomplish, but you're kind of committing to that whole thing. So you can kind of say, okay, I'm getting out here and I'm taking this ability or this tile or whatever it gives. You have the middle portion where you're kind of making your way up to be able to kind of have access to the emperor or something. But the first one to get to the top is going to get more points. So you do want to make sure that you move up. And if you don't reach the top portion, I don't think you get to score. So you want to make sure that you dedicate some time to do that. Then you have like the reputation area. And then the more you build your reputation, then the more, and that's also going to be tiebreaker, I do believe. But like, so, and then you have the wall, and then you have the jade that you're collecting. And then there's the special abilities that you can get access to. And it is so good. Plus, when we played it at Melcon, and it was a Melcon that I did at my house, we played with my friends, Keith Deluxe, like fancy deluxe version, and it was so beautiful. But it's such an interesting, neat game. I love how the whole thing works. I absolutely love that card mechanism and how what you play and what you collect becomes your next cards. You know, the whole thing works. It is so good. But like I said, I love this way more than everybody else I've ever played it with. So I don't know what's wrong with everybody else, but great game. Good. Me and you, Carla.
This game too. Yeah. It's a really cool
so
mechanism.
Yeah, that was my number 26, Gugong.
Awesome. I'm just turning off my heating blanket behind me. I'm getting hot. All right, so my number 25. Now, this is my second favorite. I think second favorite. Let me look. Martin Wallace game. Pretty sure. Yeah, it used to be my favorite Martin Wallace game, but this is London, the second edition. I just love this game, and I love everything about it. I love the box cover. I love the art in it. Some people hate it. They don't love how the art is so, I don't even know how to describe it, kind of not old Victorian. I don't know how you would describe it.
I guess. Like it fits that style.
Yeah. But
it's
anyway,
very architectural.
Yeah. It's basically a card game. You're just trying to build up your city and then run your city as much as you can. So you're building up a little engine, and how you do that is you have all these cards on this mat that you are going to draft. And on your turn, you can either draft cards or play cards into your city or run your city. And so, or you can build, buy these locations basically. And these big locations are kind of a power you're going to get throughout the game, and if you get another one, it'll go on top, so you can only ever have one at a time. But and depending which one you buy, some of the things can be affected throughout the game by other people's cards. But what you do is you're drafting these cards from the board, and then eventually you're going to be able to play them if you can. But in order to play a card, you have to pay a card of the same color back to the central board there. So you might have this hand of cards that is really juicy, but in order to play one of them, you have to give one up and hope it's going to still be there on your next turn that you can draft. And so when you do that, you will put these in, you have certain piles that you're going to put them in. You start with none, but you'll put, the first card I put down, I have dedicated, I definitely have this one pile for the rest of the game. If I play more, if I play 5 more, I'm going to have 5 piles at least for the rest of the game. Now, why that is important is because when you go to run your city, you have to, you go through every card and you're going to activate them. And then you're going to take pollution for however many cards that you have in your hand. And so if you run your city with a whole bunch of cards, you're going to take this pollution. And I mean, you don't want pollution, obviously, but it's neat because at the end of the game, whoever has the most pollution and whoever has the least pollution is going to get rid of it. So if you had 10 pollution and I had 5, I would get to get rid of all mine, and you would get negative points for that, the 10 that you have. So you're trying to have the least pollution possible if you can, but sometimes you want to make this huge city and you have 10 piles. And so you do, I think you have to take a pollution, I haven't played it in a while, but for each pile you have as well. So there's ways from the cards that you can remove pollution in there, but it's a really neat mechanic that I've never seen before. And the cards are kind of a cool little, engine building thing, whereas they all kind of play off each other. Some of them play off each other, and some of them will affect other people. You may get to add pollution to other people, or they may have to pay you some money or something. It's not too take that-y. There's just a little bit of it, but it's got really cool simple mechanics that I've taught this game at Car Treat once, and it was I think I taught it in probably 20 minutes and everybody loved it. It's not talked about a whole lot. It's an older game, and this is the second version of it, but it's just really unique, and I love it. And that's my number 25, London.
Nice. It looks really good. I haven't got
we'll have to play this
that yet, but I'm gonna wish list. I like Martin Wallace. Some of his games I really like. So,
and he has such
perfect. All right. Yeah. I'm sure there's one that I'm sure is going to be on my list here coming up because it's just so good. But my number 25 is not a Martin Wallace game. And this is part of after playing this one, I was like, okay, I'm going to get more games from this series. And I've been accumulating them all almost. There's like 1 or 2 that I don't have. But this one is Keyflower. Keyflower is so good. It is so well designed, and the bidding mechanism is so unique to this one. And the way that it works is you have these tiles that have 6 sides to it. And depending on where you're sitting at the table, the side of that tile that is facing where you're sitting, that is where you're going to place your meeple. That's your side. And that will represent your bid. And what's interesting is you play through different seasons. You start with spring, you go to summer, then you go to fall, and then the winter is the final round, and you're building like your village at the same time with these tiles, but you're going to be bidding on these tiles. So let's say I put a blue meeple on my edge to show that I'm bidding 1 blue meeple for this tile. Somebody, if they want to outbid me, is going to have to bid 2 or more meeple, and it's going to have to be blue because I've already assigned the blue color to that location. So maybe they put 2 blue meeples on it. And then the next player is like, well, I really wanted to do the action, but I don't have 3 meeples to outbid you guys. So I'm going to put a 1 meeple on top of that tile and activate the action now. You don't have to wait to purchase the tile to be able to activate the action. You can activate the action at any time. But whoever wins that tiles now will get that meeple added to their pool of meeples, so they're going to have more bidding power next round. So you are giving them an advantage as well. Now, once a tile is added to your own village, doesn't mean it's yours. People can come and place meeple in your village and activate the action that is there. Now, just because they've placed 1 meeple on it, doesn't mean you're not going to be able to activate it as well, but you're going to need to send 2 meeples of the same color they played because they've assigned the color to it now. So you have the different colored meeple that really dictates what you're going to be able to do. And then depending on the amount of meeples you have behind your little shields, like, great, they put a yellow and I have no yellow. But one other thing you can do too is you can transform a meeple into a green meeple. Now, green meeples are not going to be available because there's boats that you can pick from that's going to provide you with meeples. There is never going to be green meeples on there. you can only convert to green meeples, and the green meeples have no other value other than they're rare. So if you start bidding with a green meeple, it's going to be less likely that other people is going to be able to outbid you. Then you're going to collect resources. I think there's like iron and wood, and there's yellow, which is probably wheat. And then you can move them around in your village because you're trying to upgrade your tiles because they'll be worth more points as well. But the resources are going to be worth points also at the end of the game. Some of the tiles are going to give you like end of game scoring as well. So you're trying to set yourself up to have the most points at the end of the game. Now, warning, there's a lot to consider when playing this game. So definitely analysis paralysis can and will happen. So if you're playing with people that takes a really long time, this game will come to a crawl. Second warning, people get mad that you're using their village. Even though they don't own the tile of the village, that's something that's just like, well, I built it and I took it because I wanted it and you're using it. So it can create some aggravations that way. Just be like, not fine. Like, the tiles are not yours. You're adding them to your village. You're going to score the points on them, but everybody can use that. Keep that in mind. But yeah. So if you can get past that, it's an amazing game. I absolutely love Keyflower. And this was a birthday gift I got from my brother like early on when I got into gaming, and so good. So that is my number 25.
Good choice. All right. My number 24 is a Danny Garcia game. Now, this is a fairly newer designer who I've loved every single thing he's designed so far.
Nice.
This one is Barcelona.
So I good.
Played this, I think, before 2024. I might have played it in 2023. I can't remember when I got it, but it is such a neat game. Now, the he designed this game with actual Barcelona in mind. Just how they went about building it was they were trying to build like an area where it kind of equaled all the different types of like classes, and people didn't like that because the high class wanted to remain high class, but it was the buildings and the types of streets and everything around it he wanted to remain kind of equal. And so you have this big grid. The game board is a big grid of different areas, and how you play it is everybody starts with these two little chits of classes. So you have 3 different classes in this game, and you will always choose to play 2, and you will stack them. So depending which one you put on top, that can affect what kind of building you might be able to play. But wherever you place it, you're going to always get 2 actions. So you'll have actions kind of running, vertical, and actions running horizontal. And wherever you place it, you're going to get to do at least 2. If you actually place it on a diagonal, you'll get to do 3 different actions. And the actions are that you can actually build up streets. So you can build up these double streets, or you can build up narrow streets. You can build intersections. You can collect cloth and money. You can move a little, what do they call them? Trolleys. So they're just these kind of little it reminds me of like the San Francisco trolleys that would drive around town. I don't know if that's what they're supposed to signify, but you will place them and then you can move them as well. And they will also give you another action. So it's one of those kind of point salad games where it triggers all, like some actions will trigger more actions, which will trigger more, and so on and so on. The turns sometimes can be long just because you can do so many different things, but everybody's kind of involved because sometimes if you build on somebody else's intersection, they're going to get an action. So you're kind of always looking, or if somebody moves a trolley onto one of your roads, they might get points for that. There's just so much going on, but the player boards are so neat too, because every time you take something off, it's like you either open up space for more resources, or you allow for more possible bonuses when you do other things. And there's just different ways to victory, because you could go, really hard on building intersections and hoping people will land on those, and then you get to activate them. You could you have these different bonus tiles at the top that you might upgrade and try to really work hard towards whatever they are wanting you to complete. You can move up on this, what's it called? I want to say Sagrada, but it's not. I always, Lacerda track, I think it's called, which makes me think of, Vital Lacerda, but you can move up on that, and that will multiply points at the end of a phase, because there's 3 phases. Once so many different classes have reached a certain point, they never score this one scoring tile, and it'll be scored depending on how high you are up on this Serta track. So if you're very high up and you've done a lot towards that goal, you're going to get a whole bunch of points at the end of the round, or the end of that phase. There's just a lot going on. I did end up getting the expansion for this one, and it is actually awesome. It adds even more to it that, sometimes you can maybe be playing and you're like, okay, I don't have a lot going on. Well, I can work on this over here, and it's completely different than all the other stuff that's going on. So it just adds a whole other, way to victory in this. Actually, more than one way. It adds about 2 or 3 different more ways to victory, and it's just one of those open kind of sandbox games where you can kind of go this way, someone can go that way, and you can kind of do your own thing where you're still kind of possibly helping each other in ways. It's just awesome. I just love his designs. They're all so unique and different, and this one is a real hit with me. And that's my number 24, Barcelona.
Yeah, Barcelona was great. I quite enjoy that. It reminds me of Reverse Targi. Because with Target, depending on where you are on the outside, what you're going to activate inside. Yeah, and this one is depending on what you put on the inside, it's going to activate what's on the outside. But very good. Great pick. Yeah. So my number 24 is probably the most beautiful game I've ever come across. And I bought this one on looks alone. Now, it's been reprinted. The box and the card, like the is just as beautiful, but I'm showing you the version I have because I still like that one the most, and that's Ashes Rise of the Pheonixborn. And now it's Ashes Reborn, and they've just tweaked some of the cards a little bit, make it a little bit more balanced, but the artwork is still all equally beautiful. And so if you buy it now, it's a red box with kind of this with these, and there's more characters, but a lot of people kind of would compare this a bit to Magic the Gathering, the way that it plays. I'm not a big Magic player, so I really can't say, but you don't have mana cards. You have dice that would activate your cards. And this is where it's really interesting too, because depending on the character that you have, you'll have different type of dice that you'll be utilizing. Most of the time, it's like 2 type of dice. And you're going to roll them, and it's either going to be the top icon that you can use as anything. It could be top, medium or low. Or if you roll a medium icon, well, in that case, it can only be a medium icon or a low. Or if you roll the low, then it's the lowest icon. But depending on what you have on the card, it can have a cost to bring it out into play. It could have a cost to activate it, and you got to spend the dice. And depending on what you've rolled, what you'll be able to do. And then you have your Pheonixborn, which is like your main guy, and then the goal is to destroy the other player's Pheonixborn first, right? So you want to be the last Pheonixborn standing. Then you have your allies that you can bring into the battlefield, but you can also conjure creatures that can also come out into your battlefield. And then below the battlefield, you have your spell book where you can add different spells to activate as well. And some of the spells will be the way that you can conjure those creatures, or it'll give you different things that you can do. But you play as different characters, and each character play completely different. The base box comes with 6 characters, and then you can have extra expansion that you would add that will add extra characters. But there's one that's like a voodoo doll, right? So it's all kind of based on that. And you want to spend a little bit of time to kind of look at how your character works, because they play slightly different. So the tactics and the strategies you're going to want to use are going to be a little bit different. One of them has like a snake that you can conjure. But the point is, like, the more you've kind of add stuff to the snake, the stronger it becomes. So you're trying to make sure that it doesn't get destroyed, so you can kind of build it up, and then when it's really nice and strong, then attack with it, because it has like so much, it's built up so much now. um I tend to really like one versus one battle card games. I've discovered that about myself, and this one is up there. But just the artwork, the look of it, it is beautiful. And these dice, and then spending the dice, and how that all works. It is such a neat game. Um, Watch it played. What's his name?
Rodney Smith.
Rodney Smith, yeah. So him and his son have done, like, he's done a great tutorial on this game, and then him and his son kept recording a bunch of gameplays of this. They were big fans of Ashes, and that was a great way to learn how to play. Like, they did a really good job with this Ashes series. So if you get the game and you want to learn how to play, definitely go watch it there. But yeah, such a good game, so pretty. And that's my number 24, Ashes, Rise of the Pheonixborn, or Ashes Reborn.
Yeah, this is a great game. This is actually Rodney's number one game, and this used to be your number one game.
It's decreased a bit because I'm having a really hard time playing it, and Lee hates it. The first time we played it, he asked, he's like, can we please stop? Like, he didn't even finish. He's like, can we please stop? Like, to him, it's just... It's because you could do so much. I was like, okay, well, what do I do? Well, it depends what you have in your cards. Like, you could do this, or you could place a spell. You could do this, or you could do this, and what other dice you have. And it's like, and he didn't like how lack of structure there was. Exactly. And he was like, okay, I really don't want to play this. I'm like, but it's so good. Yeah, so I've played it with the local girls here, and they really liked it. So I think I'm going to be able to get this one to the table. But just because it's been so hard to get it played, it's dropped quite a bit. But it's so good.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, my number 23 is my favorite Martin Wallace game, and that's Anno 1800. Now, this one he actually developed from a video game, not his video game, but he developed this from a video game, and I had heard on a podcast, so I don't know if it's 100% true, that he actually developed it in days just from the game. Like, yeah, which it's possible. If you play this game, you could maybe go, okay, yeah, I could maybe see how he did that, because if you have the actual game in front of you and then you just put it on the table, basically. But what you are doing is you're building up your own industry to develop like your home island. And so how you do that is there's a lot of player interactiveness to this game. You are building different things, I guess maybe not building, but developing different types of industry, I guess, but like things like soap and clothing and glasses, or just plain glass, all different kinds of things. And once you have them on your board, you can always use them, but other people can also use them as well. And when they use them, it doesn't take away from you. You can still use them. You just get gold every time somebody uses one of your things, and they have to use a trade token in order to use your stuff to build their stuff. But it's really unique because people will be going around the table. Okay, who's got sausage? Who's got, beer? Who's got champagne? I need some champagne. Okay, you get this many. And depending what level each thing is at, so it might be like a kind of like a level 2 or 3, then you have to spend more trade tokens. And it's just really cool because you are always kind of in on the game, and you're wondering, are people going to use my stuff? And you might just build some stuff or develop some stuff that you don't even need, but other people are going to use. So it's kind of neat that way. You also are building ships and shipyards so that you can get more trading tokens so that you can trade more. You are building exploration boats that will give you exploration tokens. And what those will do is you can expand your island. You can develop more different types of trading items that you can't get from the main board. You what else are you doing? Oh, so you have this hand of cards, which is unique as well. And until these cards are out of your hand, the game will not end. So you can make this game as long as short as you want, but every time you play a card, or every time you complete a card, depending on what it is, if it gives you more workers, then you have to pull up more cards. So sometimes you'll have a hand of cards that are basically just developing more workers, and you're like, well, I'm never going to reduce my card size, because as soon as I play this, I'm going to grab another one. But there are some cards that will help you get rid of cards. And those are quite expensive, and you need higher item things for it. But it's just a really, really neat kind of little engine building game that plays so well. I've never played it with this, or with anyone that did not like this game. It is
Nice.
so unique and awesome, and I've never played the video game, so I don't know how similar it is to it, but it is just so cool. And there's actually an expansion out there that is only in German, I believe. I'm sure there's like a translation to it, but it's supposed to be awesome for this as well. But yeah, that's my number 23, Anno 1800.
Looks great. I
Yeah.
want to try
You
this
haven't
one.
played this one, but I know
I
you
haven't
would love
played
it.
this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheesh. And there I thought, well, like our numbers were not close. So yeah, of course you've played way more than I did. But well, so much playing to do. My number 23, and I just
Yep.
showed it anyways, but that's
Oh, yeah.
Foundations of Rome or Foundations of Metropolis. It's the
Yeah.
exact same game. If you want super impressive table presence, Foundations of Rome is where you're going to go. If you want it to be easier on the pocketbook and fit easily into a calyx and not take a whole cubby, Foundations of Metropolis is where you want to go. Now, my concern with Foundations of Metropolis is Foundations of Rome, one of the big thing is it's so easy to get playing because you pull the board, everything is organized, and you start playing, and it's right there. It's all ready to go. And I was like, oh, but you're not going to get that with Foundation of Metropolis. But yes, you do. Everything comes placed in your board as well. It's just inlaid cardboard instead of this big, bulky plastic one with all the 3D buildings. So you don't lose on the organization genius that this game has. But so it makes it quick and easy to get started playing the game. There's not tons of setup. But otherwise, the game is exactly the same. And it's a great game. It plays fairly quick. It's super easy to pick up and get going. But you're going to be bidding on these different locations. You start with a few of them. Then you're going to be well, it's not even bidding. You're going to be purchasing them. There's a set price. But as you buy one, it shifts down and becomes more affordable. And you're going to try to create these clusters so that you can change those clusters into bigger buildings and kind of build up from that. Now, you want to kind of keep in mind or keep an eye on where things are located and what's around you, because some buildings are going to give you income. When you take the income action, you're going to get more money. Some buildings are going to give you population, which is good because that's going to transfer into points. So you want to have population. Then you'll have some buildings that will give you points based on what it's touching and what's around. So one will be like, hey, well, you get 1 point for every 2 population, and you have it kind of sandwiched between 2 population buildings, then it's going to generate points when you score, because there's 3 eras that you're going to go through and you score at the end of each one. Now, the board kind of has every step right on the board, so it's fairly easy as to what you need to do. It's very user friendly. Like, it's very easy to get going with this one, and I love that about it. And the Rome's or Metropolis is equal with this. I think when I put my list together, I hadn't played Metropolis yet, and that's why I put Foundations of Rome. But I've
Same
played
here.
Metropolis. I own Metropolis. I don't own Foundations of Rome. There's a huge price gap between the two. And space to me was like, it takes a whole cubby to fit Foundations of Rome. Like, that's a lot of shelf real estate to give up, but it looks good on the table. I gotta say, it looks amazing on the table when you play it. But I quite enjoy this one. It's an amazing game. It's been on my top 50 for like last year's list as well, and I think it's gonna stay there. So to this year, but anyways, it's on my number 23.
Yeah, that one is an awesome game and just gorgeous as well. All right, my number 22 is another new one to me, and this is Evenfall. Now, you are playing as a coven of witches, and you're trying to like control new places of power and use them to like arcane rituals and do all things because you are trying to be the one seat on the enchanted throne. And so that is obviously the winner of the game. But what is so cool about this is it's a tableau builder. And so you have your little player board in front of you, and you will be playing cards on all kinds of sides of this board. You can play cards on the sides that I think they are called assistants. And when you play them, these are multi-use cards. You will use the card for the assistant part of it, which is basically a player power that you'll have throughout the game. You can play cards as council members, and they will go on the bottom of your player board, and those will all be different end game points. You have your inner and outer circle on the right side, the upper and lower of your player board. That is where you will play these places of power. Initially on the inner circle, I believe. I might be getting inner and outer wrong, and then once they are played, you can place artifacts on top of them, and there's different types of artifacts. But if you do place this artifact that matches the ability, then you'll get extra resources out of it, and then you will eventually want to move those down to your, I think it might be outer and then inner. You might want to move them down to your inner, and then those will also be end game points. So it's just kind of a really cool little engine buildy game with also another whole part that it has these different regions that you are going to be placing your witches out to collect these places of power, which is also a little unique area control part of the game that you will play at the end of the round. You'll have like a little battle, and how you do that is you'll do each region, and however many witches you have there, they will count towards, you know, your value, and then you will bid this mana that you have maybe gained throughout the game, but you have these little dials and you'll bid them secretly, and then you'll flip them over, and whoever has the most will win that area, and they'll get to grab this little special disc that can be played on one of your cards in the bottom inner circle that will double the points from that card. And then everybody will still get little bonuses from those areas depending how much mana they have spent. So it's just, you know, another one of those you do this and you get that, and you get this and you do that, where I don't even know if they're called, I feel like that should be its own mechanism where it's like, I feel like it's like a combo, like, I don't know, it should have its own class, I believe, because I just seem to really love those type of games where, you know, this can trigger that and trigger this and trigger that, and it just, you know, gives off those dopamines to me where it's like, oh, and this and this and this is gonna do that, and I just get so happy about those type of games. But this one is an awesome one, and it has a really cool kind of Halloween-y witch theme to it, and the art is beautiful in this game. And that's my number 22, Evenfall.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun when we played it.
Oh yeah, you did play that, right? I think you won that game.
Well, I had tons of leaves. I don't know what but I had tons of resources. It was just building up that way. I can't remember if I was winning or not, but I just remembered I was like, she got all the leaves. I was like, I really do. All right, my number 22 is, and I'm just looking up. This is one that, okay, I've played when it first came out. Wasn't my copy, it was my friend's copy. And I was like, okay, I think it's good. And I haven't played it for years. And then I played it again with you guys here at my house. And I was like, okay, I know this is really good. And then I since bought it and played it again. And it's like, okay, so the more I play it, the more I like it. And this is In the Hall of the Mountain Kings. This is so good. It is such a neat game. Like, the resource aspect of it is kind of interesting because you build this like pyramid thing and you fill it up as you build it. Then you use it up, and because when you add to it, like, you rebuild that kind of that leg, but you don't want to do that if it's not used up yet. So there's interesting kind of resource balance that you're trying to do. Plus, you start like on the edge of the map and you're trying to tunnel yourself in, and the bigger the piece that you're adding in your tunnel, the more points it's worth. But then it's also worth more the deeper in the mountain that you go in, and like, it's, so there's kind of that going on. and to consider as well. But then you get these little um statues that are there, and then you can move the statues to be on top of like a, I don't know what you call them, but like it's not a table, but like it's not a portal either, but you have these
an altar,
altar maybe.
Yeah.
And then you put the, if you put the statue there, then it's going to be worth that much more. So you're trying to kind of do this, but then you're kind of going to be drawing them out, and then there's different colors that's going to be made available as well. Now you had a deluxe version, and all the things were like 3D printed plastic pieces, and it looks great. I have the retail version, and it's wooden pieces that still looks great. It's still so good. So I really, really enjoy this game. And like I said, the more I play it, the more I'm like, oh my God. Because I gifted it to my friend for Christmas. Well, so I bought it. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't keep it. I should give it to them for Christmas. And I kind of guilted myself into not keeping it, so it became their Christmas gift. And I was like, oh, but I really want it. So I found a secondhand copy, and I was like, okay, I bought it again. So, and then when I gifted it to her, we ended up playing it so I could show her how to play. And then we just had like a 2-player game, and it was so good. I was like, oh my God. This game is so good. So, and then she loved it, and her family are loving it. So then that's good. So I'm glad I gifted it to her in the end. But I was like, oh, but I could keep it. It's like, no, I need to gift it. You know, I was like, so, and I was like, I shouldn't be buying games around Christmas. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, no, I'm not keeping it. I'm gifting it. But then I ended up buying it anyways. And I have zero regrets because it's such a cool game. So that is my number 22, In the Hall of the Mountain King.
Yes, that is a really good game. I have to play my copy again because I think I've only played it cooperatively. Remember? Or sorry, teams. Me and you versus, I think, Cherry.
Me and Ashley. It was me and Ashley, and we lost horribly because I was doing so bad.
Me and Cherry?
You and Cherry. Oh, and yeah, I totally dropped the ball in that team play.
But you can play competitive too, so
yes. And honestly, I think I prefer it that way anyways.
Yeah
But I mean, the team play was cool too.
Yeah. All right. 21. Now this is my favorite Uwe Rosenberg game, and this is Fields of Arle. So this is a initially the base game is a 2-player only game, but with the tea and trade expansion you can play it up to 3. Now it is a huge table hog. So I can see why they didn't make it a 4-player game, because you can barely fit it on the table with 3. It's such a cool game. You are building up your farm, just like typical Uwe Rosenberg, but he does it differently this time because you are using a resource track instead of collecting resources. He has done this in some of his other games, but really neat how you're building up your farm because you have to push up these dikes in order to be able to have more fields, like until they dry out kind of thing. You have to like flip your peat over and then collect the peat in order to heat your family or farm for the winter. You are trying to gather different equipment and wagons and such so that you can deliver different things and gain points from the delivery of them. And it's neat because when you deliver these things, they have to fit in your wagon, and then once they're delivered, you flip them over and they go on this little scoring track on your board, and they kind of stack. So if you deliver like a bunch of items that is a big tile, you get to flip that one and put it on there, and it'll take up lots of space, which will give you higher points. You can build these buildings also to fill up your farm that will possibly give you ongoing bonuses or end game points. And it's neat because you're always playing, you have this huge game board that is different worker placement spots, and it has 2 sides to it. So in the summer you're going to go to the left side and do like those actions, whereas in the winter you're going to go to the other side and do those actions. And they have some that are the same, but most of them are different from summer to winter. You can also breed in this, and there's not so much a harvest. Well, there is a kind of a wheat harvest, but you can gain milk from cows and sheep, and you can gain wool from sheep as well. You other things you can do is you're trying to build up your tools so that when you go to these worker placement spots, they are giving you more things as you go there. And one person can always go into the other season, but when they do that, they are giving up first player for the next season. And it's just so cool how he developed all this and how the mechanics of this work so well for 2 players and with the expansion for 3. So it's I totally recommend this game. It is a longer game. It's a heavy game, but it is well worth it. And that is my number 21, Fields of Arle.
I've played this one just the one time, and I did quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a long time ago. My number 21 is actually the game that we played when we were bringing in New Year. So we had a few friends over for New Year's Eve. We played a bunch of party games, and then we played this one kind of to have a bit more substantial game that was still super easy to teach to pretty much anybody. We had a kind of an eclectic group. And we ended up playing a 6-player version or play of this over, the countdown. And that is Dice Throne. So Dice Throne is so cool. First time I ever played the first Dice Throne, not even like the re-rolled version, but just the very first season 1 Dice Throne. I interrupted the game halfway through. I called my local game store and I says, I know you have a copy, put it aside. I'm coming for it today. I was blown away at just how fun and cool and this game was. Like, I loved it. And then with this one, so you have all these different characters. So the original first game came with 6 characters. The battle box comes with 8. And I have season 1 rerolled, so there's 8 characters there. I have season 2 rerolled, so there's 8 more characters there. I have Marvel, so there's 8 more characters there. And then I have Santa versus Krampus, so 2 more characters there. Plus I have Dice Throne Adventure that takes all of these characters so you can play them in a dungeon crawl. And that also adds a few more characters that you could play with also. But it's so cool. Now, it's Yahtzee battle style. You have this character. Artwork is amazing. Manny Tremblay is an amazing artist, and it's so cool. And you have these different abilities that you can activate. So you're going to roll the dice to either get the number combination or the icon combination to be able to activate the special ability or attack that they're going to do. And let's say I'm doing an attack. So, let's say, to the other player, I'm hitting you by 8. Now, they have a defensive ability they can activate. So then they would take their dice and roll for their defense abilities. I'm inflicting a tangle on you, and I'm dodging 2 of those hits. So I get hit by 6 instead of 8, and so on. And then it's their turn. And then you go back. So this game definitely probably is best at 1 versus 1. But like I said, we were playing it 6 players, and it was still tons of fun. Each character has their own set of dice. Each have their own abilities. They're all very unique. And they have like things to them that is unique to them. Like, for example, over the New Year's, I was playing the Cursed Pirate, and I get doubloons, and every round I lose a doubloon. And that's okay. But if I ever run out of doubloon, I have to take my board, I flip it over, and I become a Cursed Pirate. Now, my attacks are more powerful. I'm a more powerful being altogether, but I slowly die, and I take 4 hits of damage myself. I was down to 4 health. So when my turn was going to come, I was going to die. And I was like, the only way I can win is for her to attack you and for you to retaliate and hit her back, and then you both kill each other. And they did, because the one was down to 2 health. And I ended up winning that way just because my turn hadn't come across yet and I hadn't died yet.
Oh, wow.
So it was just like an epic battle. Like, we had the Cursed Pirate into play. We had Pyromancer. We had Santa and Krampus. And then we had the Fortificer, and I don't remember what the other character But it was hilarious. Just the
The
eclectic.
monk? Is it the monk with the artificer?
No, the monk wasn't in play. I can't remember what she was. Oh, she was a ninja. She had the
Oh,
ninja,
okay.
the one that's on my picture now. If you're looking at the video, but it was so cool. It was just so much fun. We had a blast because this was a first time playing for a lot of people. But this is such an easy game to teach and play. And it's so balanced. It's so well balanced that like we were 3 at the end of the game under 4 health. I mean, like it was very even. It was a perfect game to start off the new year, and it was just so much fun. And that is my
Yeah,
number
that's awesome.
21, Dice Throne. Now you've discovered Dice Throne this year as well.
Yeah, and we played a lot of Santa and Krampus over the holidays too. I really like those two characters. They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well, so this was our list for 20 or 30 to 21. So our next podcast we're going to be doing from 20 to 11. So we only got 2 more episodes of this going. We're going to have to start coming up with top 9 ideas again.
Yeah.
So, so if you think of anything, do let us know if there's any lists you want us to kind of talk about. We kind of have a running list, so there's still quite a bit on our list. We're not tapped out yet at all. But it's exciting. We're getting to like the really good stuff.
Yeah. These are some awesome games.
Yes. Perfect. So before we call it quits, Carla, where can we find you?
I'm at Instagram, Board Game Specialist, all one word. And on Facebook, I'm at Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. What about you?
So first of all, be sure to join our Discord. We have been very active there. And that's been a lot of fun. On Instagram, you can find me at Mel's_boardgame_room. I also have my Facebook page called Mel's Board Game Room and my YouTube channel, which is also Mel's Board Game Room. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you for the top 20 to 11.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Bye.